Okay, shalom. This is Brother Gabar from the Gathering Christ Church in New York, the New York school. Today we're going to go over a lesson of history, and also, as we do every Sabbath, we're going to be reciting a certain portion of the law. Okay, so you know what we left off in 121, the Book of Psalms. Okay, so first, brother, you can come up if you don't mind. Psalms 121, please say your name.
What chapter?
Chapter 121.
Good afternoon. My name is Brother Virgil, tribe of Judah, nation of Israel. Reading out of Psalms 120. In my distress I cry unto the Lord, and he heard me. Deliver my soul, O Lord. 121.
121.
Okay. My apology. I will lift up my eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from time forth and even forevermore. Psalms 122. I was glad when
No, just one chapter, brother.
Oh, one chapter?
Yep, thank you so much.
Yeah.
The water. Just one chapter. We in chapter 21, 22.
Jonathan, the tribe of Judah, nation of Israel. Psalms 122, verse 1. I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of the Lord. Verse 2. How precious stones in thy gates, O Jerusalem. The roof and built as the sea that is compact together. Verse 4. With these tribes go up, tribes of the Lord, into the testimony of Israel. Give thanks unto the name of the Lord. Verse 5. For they have set thrones of judgment, the thrones of the house of David. Verse 6. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem, they shall prosper like a large nation. Verse 7. Peace be within thy walls, prosperity within thy palaces. Verse 8.
Excuse me, brother. Could you turn on the mic? I think it's switch it. Perfect. Thank you.
Verse 8. For my brethren and companions' sake, I will not say, peace be within thee. Verse 9. Trust of the house of the Lord, our God will seek thy good.
The water, brother. Thank you.
Shalom. My name is Adir, tribe of Babylon, nation of Israel. Reading from Psalms 123. Verse 1. Unto thee lift up mine eyes, O thou that dwellest in the heavens. Verse 2. Behold, as the eyes of servants look unto the hand of their masters, and as the eyes of a maiden unto the hand of her mistress. So our eyes wait upon the Lord our God, until that he hath mercy upon us. Verse 3. Have mercy upon us, O Lord, have mercy upon us, for we are exceedingly filled with contempt. Verse 4. Our Lord is exceedingly filled with the scorning of those that are at ease, and with the contempt of the proud. Thank you.
Shalom, brother, and thank you in the water for that. Okay. Just adjust this here. Okay. All right. We have a small class today, but we're gonna. This brother's on the way. Everybody's unfortunately working today, so we're gonna go into a quick history. Few weeks ago, we had a rabbi, and but he was a brother that he actually converted into Judaism. He's actually from he was Panamanian, or where he was from? Colombian. He was from Colombia, and he's a brother that converted to Judaism. And he's defended the Judaism point of view. And basically what he was saying, I saw one of his videos, and this video is stating that all the curses that happened in Deuteronomy 28 pretty much happened already, was fulfilled during the times within the Bible. Like we went into Babylon, the Syrian Empire, and also, of course, in Rome when they ransacked Israel. So we're going to go into some understanding what happened during those times, and we're going to get some maps to understand what region that we are talking about. Okay, and let's bring this up the way. Okay. All right, so let's run down first. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28, and we're also going to go into the book of Acts today, understanding where we were spread and from a geographical perspective. Okay. Okay, so let's stay at Deuteronomy 28, chapter the 15th verse.
Deuteronomy 28.
Put it by your chest, because sometimes
Deuteronomy 28, verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy power, to observe to do all his commandments, and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Verse 16. Cursed thou be in the city, and cursed thou be in the field. Verse 17. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store.
Okay, what is the understanding of this particular chapter? It says, "Cursed be thy baskets and thy stores." Right. What's your baskets? What will be your the ancient baskets? What you bring forth after your farming? Your abundance, right? What will be the modern baskets today? Bank accounts, businesses, money. Okay, so that's going to be cursed. Now, if someone within let's put the mic away a little further. And if somebody would say, well, this prophecy was already fulfilled, where will you think they're going with? Let's think the way they think. The Holocaust. Where else? But see, that would be a dangerous thing. Why? Why would that be a dangerous thing for them to do that? Right, but why would they try? They don't even go there. But let's just say they do go there. Where can you come back with that? Okay, what is the argument? You heard the debate that we had with the rabbi? What was his, and I don't know if you guys seen the debate with debating the Israelite prophecy, Deuteronomy 28, things of that nature. What was the theme of their lesson? That all the curses already happened within the confine of the Bible. Right? So if they'll try to go into the Holocaust, because now you go into modern times now. Okay, now we could debate that. Okay, let's go into that. They don't want that. Because they don't fit the prophecy. So they try to stay everything within the Bible. Okay, but if you go into that, how can you combat that argument? Let's say, okay, yes. Well, in the Holocaust, the Nazi, they took the Jewish people's jewelry and gold and things of that nature. How can you come back with that? Within the scripture of the curses. No, but stay within the confine of the subject matter, the baskets. What did the slave did not receive that the Jews received?
Restoration.
Say it again.
Restoration.
Reparations. So they got the go back. Not only the people that lost it, their descendants got their go back. Now in the scripture it says that when you go into in the curses, it says that all these curses will be upon you until you be destroyed. And no one will save you. They got saved. Who saved them? The United States of America. Not only that, they got a land over that because of it. The United States of America, I think they spend, and this is conservatively, $6 million a day supporting Israel.
They actually, out of all that foreign aid
Yeah.
for the whole world,
Yeah,
Israel gets half of
yeah, yeah.
it. Little
that-
Israel
right.
is half of our foreign budget, and the rest of the world
Right,
has to divvy up those lands.
exactly. So you could stay within the confine of the curses. You could dispute that. Now, let's continue.
Deuteronomy 28, verse 18. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy and the flocks of thy sheep. Verse 19.
What's the understanding of that curse?
I'm assuming when they say curse of fruit, talking about genetically engineered fruit.
Yeah, read it again. It's twofold.
Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body.
What is that? Children, right? So children are going to be cursed. Read.
And the fruit of thy land.
And the fruit of thy land, that's your habitation. Okay, read.
The increase of thy kin, and the flocks of thy sheep.
Okay, and the flock of thy sheep. So the increase of your kin, meaning your children, and so your habitation, and also your children are going to be cursed. Now let's keep reading.
Verse 19. Cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shall thou be when thou goest out.
Okay, so we all understand all these curses fit to us. Now let's go into the first. What was the great empire after we fell as a nation, or we split as a nation after King Solomon? What was the next great kingdom to rise up? Yeah, it was, but not. What was the first great one?
Babylon.
Babylon, right? So let's go into Babylon first. Matter of fact, babe, could you do me a favor? What I did with that? I think it's under your computer, brother. Oh yeah, okay. Could you hand out, because some of the, for let's get this balance there. Good. Okay. Let's go to Babylon Persia. Okay. All right. So this is you guys can see this. Yes, this is somebody else comes. All right. Let me stand up. Philip. You sit down. You stay down, and I'm going to stand up. You have a pen?
I have one.
Yeah.
Where's the first one? You guys should have this on your list that I gave you. I'm gonna put this a little closer for the audience will be able to see. All right, do you guys have this picture on your? All right, so we have Israel over here, okay? You should have that picture. It should maybe perhaps be in the second to last or third to last. It should say the Babylonian Empire, 606 to 536 BC, before Christ. Okay. Now this is the region, the thick orange areas is the region that the Babylonian Empire in its heyday kind of controlled. As you see here, it controls certain aspects of Egypt, it controls certain aspects of Saudi Arabia, it controls certain aspects of Iraq, it controls certain aspects of Syria in this area. It controls certain aspects of Turkey up here. Okay, this is the Black Sea here. This is the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, over here, this is the Red Sea down here. Okay, all right. So let's go to Daniel, the first chapter. Brother Keith. Daniel, the first chapter. Now, when this kingdom became powerful, it took over Israel, right? So many people say, okay, well, the Babylonian captivity is the fulfillment of Deuteronomy 28. Why is it the Babylonian captivity cannot be the fulfillment of Deuteronomy 28? Some examples. What went down? I want to give you some clues. What did Daniel do for Nebuchadnezzar? They allowed Nebuchadnezzar to allow the Israelites to build the temple. Let's go to Daniel. My friend, let's go to Daniel's second chapter. He interpreted the dream. Let's read it.
The book of Daniel, chapter 2, verse 1. And in the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams, wherewith his spirit was troubled, and his sleep brake from him. Verse 2. Then the king commanded to call the magicians and the astrologers, and the sorcerers and the Chaldeans, for to show the king his dreams. So they came and stood before the king. Verse 3. And the king said unto them, I have dreamed a dream, and my spirit was troubled to know the dream. Verse 4. Then spake the Chaldeans to the king of Syria, O king, live forever. Tell thy servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation. Verse 5. The king answered and said to the Chaldeans, the thing is gone from me. If ye will not make known unto me the dream with the interpretation thereof, ye shall be cut in pieces, and your houses shall be made of dunghill. Verse 6. But if ye show the dream and the interpretation thereof, ye shall receive of me gifts and rewards and great honor. Therefore show me the dream and the interpretation thereof. Verse 7. They answered it again and said, let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation of it. Verse 8. The king answered and said, I know of certainty that ye gain the time, because ye see the thing is gone from me. Verse 9. But if ye will not make known unto me the dream, there is but one decree for you. For ye have prepared lying and corrupt words to speak before me. Till the time be changed. Therefore, tell me the dream, and I shall know that ye can show me the interpretation thereof. Verse 10. The Chaldeans answered before the king and said, There is not a man upon the earth that can show the king's matter. Thereof there is no king, lord, nor ruler that asks such things at any magician or astrologer or Chaldean.
Who were the Chaldeans? Right, but who were the wise men that making this statement here? These were the wizards. This is what the king's cabinet, if you will. So he couldn't interpret this dream. So therefore, the Nebuchadnezzar got extremely upset. Right? Let's keep reading.
Verse 11. Daniel chapter 2, verse 11. And it is a rare thing that the king required, and there is none other that can show it before the king, except the gods, whose dwelling is not with flesh. Verse 12. With this cause the king was angry and very furious, and commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon.
Read.
Verse 13. And the decree went forth that the wise men should be slain, and they sought Daniel and his fellows to be slain. Verse 14. Then Daniel answered with counsel and wisdom to Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, which was gone forth to slay the wise men of Babylon. Verse 15. He answered and said to Arioch, the king's captain, Why is the decree so hasty from the king? Then Arioch made the thing known to Daniel. Verse 16. Then Daniel went in and desired of the king that he would give him time, that he would show the king the interpretation. Verse 17. Then Daniel went to his house and made the king known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companions. Verse 18. That they would desire mercies of the Most High of heaven concerning this secret, that Daniel and his fellows should not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. Verse 19. Then was the secret revealed unto Daniel in a night vision. Then Daniel blessed the power of heaven. Verse 20. Daniel answered and said, Blessed be the name of the Most High forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his. Verse 21. And he changed the times and the seasons. He removed the kings and set up kings. He giveth wisdom unto the wise, and knowledge to them that know understanding. Verse 22. He revealeth the deep and secret things. He knoweth what is in the darkness, and the light dwelleth with him. Verse 23. I thank thee and praise thee, O thou Ahijah of my fathers, who has given me wisdom and might, and has made known unto me now what we desire of thee. For thou hast not made known unto us the king's matter. Verse 24. Therefore Daniel went unto Arioch, one the king had ordained to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He went and said thus unto him, Destroy not the wise men of Babylon. Bring me in before the king, and I will show unto the king the interpretation. Verse 25. Then Arioch brought in Daniel before the king in Hes, and said thus unto him, I have found a man of captives of Judah, that we will make known unto the king the interpretation. Verse 26. The king answered and said to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, Art thou able to make known unto me the dream which I have seen, and the interpretation thereof? Verse 27. Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, The secret which the king hath demanded cannot the wise men and the astrologers and the magician and soothsayers show unto the king.
Where you at, brother?
Verse 27.
Jump down to 40.
Daniel chapter 2, verse 40.
Matter of fact, start at the 36th verse.
The book of Daniel chapter 2, verse 36. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king.
So this is Daniel speaking to the Nebuchadnezzar. So I'm going to give you an interpretation of this dream. Read.
Verse
Now at this point, Israel has really been scattered, right? You got the northern tribe, which is in the bottom part of Israel, which is over here, and you got the southern tribe, which is up here. At this time, they already were carried captive over the river of the Euphrates into Iraq in this region. And they were no longer in this area. And by this time, they already had taken the voyages to America, a lot of them. But we're going to get into that later. So at this point, the Israelites already, or the curses, so to speak, already. One could start the argument that going forward, the curses are manifesting itself because they lost Babylon took over Israel. See, it covers this area, so this could be the fulfillment of this particular. Someone could argue and say, well, this is the fulfillment of Deuteronomy 28. But why is that? Let's read.
The book of Daniel, chapter 2, verse 37. Thou, O king, art a king of kings. For the power of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. Verse 38.
So this is the region in which you guys should see. This is the kingdom that Daniel was talking about. He controlled a certain portion of Egypt, Turkey, Iraq, Saudi Arabia. Okay, he controlled these areas. Read.
Verse 38. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given unto thy hand, and have made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. Verse 39. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. Verse 40. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron. For as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdue all things, and as iron that breaketh all things shall it break in pieces and bruise.
So what are the four kingdoms that Daniel was talking about here? Somebody name them.
Babylon,
Uh-huh.
Greece, and Rome.
In Rome. Okay, so Daniel is kind of breaking the history of the four kingdoms that is going to be established. Read.
Verse 41. Whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with merry clay. Verse 42.
Jump down, because I don't want to get into that because that's a whole different lesson, but jump down to 46. This was then Nebuchadnezzar did after he heard the interpretation of this particular dream. Read 46.
Daniel chapter 2, verse 46. Then the king Nebuchadnezzar fell upon his face and worshipped Daniel.
And did what?
And fell upon his face and worshipped Daniel.
So how could this be the fulfillment of Deuteronomy 28? What happened? Because in according to Deuteronomy 28, we will not be able to be redeemed. Here is Daniel redeeming the nation of Israel. Because what happened afterwards? What did Nebuchadnezzar did after this event? Let's read.
And commanded that they shall offer an oblation and sweet odors unto him. Verse 47.
The same thing that happened to what this story sounds like. This happened before. Joseph in Egypt. History repeating itself again. Read.
Verse 47. The king answered unto Daniel and said, Of a truth it is that your Ahijah is a power of gods, and the Lord of kings, and a revealer of secrets.
So Nebuchadnezzar gave props to the God of Israel. So how is this? According to the Deuteronomy, it's not only that the enemies will try to overcome Israel, but we won't be able to overcome our enemies until we are destroyed. We overcame our enemy because Daniel was able to interpret the dreams. And what happened after that? And when you also read in the book of Josephus, Nebuchadnezzar allowed the Israelites to maintain their culture, maintain their God. He converted to the God of Israel. We're going to also read in the book of the Apocrypha. Keep reading.
Seeing thou couldst reveal this secret. Verse 48. Then the king made Daniel a great man, and gave him many great gifts, and made him ruler over the whole province.
He did what?
And made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon, and chief of the
Keep reading.
And chief of the governors over all the wise men of Babylon.
Okay, so that throws that theory that the fulfillment of Deuteronomy 28 was fulfilled with the capture of the Babylonian Empire. Okay, now let's go into And then I'll bring it next week because there was more lessons on exactly that he allowed. And what happened is he allowed, and I wish I would have found it like now. Let me try to get it real quick. Shalom, sisters, how we doing? He allowed for Israel to build a temple. That's in the book of Josephus. But what happened? What happened afterwards? After he much later, what did Nebuchadnezzar did? He went back, and what happened to him?
He got jacked up.
What happened to him?
Crazy.
He got crazy. What he started acting like? Like a dog. Started barking. He became like a vagabond. So, is that the fulfillment of Deuteronomy 28? No. That goes to show you. Okay, let's go to the Persian in the meantime. Let's go to the book of Ruth, which we're going to about celebrate. This is the book of Ruth. Ruth 9, I think it is.
You mean Esther?
Esther, I'm sorry, yeah. So let me just go into a quick, and you guys should also have this, and if somebody who's got it came in, you should. Just move this a little bit over here. All right, so let's go into, where are you, Esther 9. Well, let's because I want to do a lesson on this because Purim is coming, so I want to. So let's go to 9. Let's go to 9. Now, let's go. What happened? Let's do a quick. Now, before we start, this is the Persian Empire. Now, the Persian Empire took over or became the superpower of the day after the Babylonian fell. Now, how do kingdoms usually collapse? What usually happens? War, conquest, but what something happens? What is everybody complaining about when we're going to war and we cannot do what? There's something we cannot do, continue the war because we can't afford it. Financial collapse. So what happen is that when you have an empire, which the Persian means is around this area here, this is the main area. Okay, just from the aspect where Israel is at. Israel is over here. Egypt is over here. Saudi Arabia is over here. Okay, Turkey is up here. Okay, this is the Black Sea. So it's around the same vicinity that the Babylonian Empire was at. It's just basically now a new or a new person is the boss, which is the Persian Medes, which is Iran, India, around this area here. Okay, so I know the Persians is two different governments combining forces against Iraq, and against the Babylonians. That's how they overthrew them. That's what it's called, the Persian enemies. Now, let's go to Esther, the 9th chapter. We could start at the first verse, yeah.
The book of Esther, chapter 9, verse 1. Now in the 12th month, that is the month of Adar, on the 13th day of the same, when the king's commandment and his decree drew near to be put to execution, and the day that the enemies of the Jews hoped to have power over them, though it was.
Now, what was the problem? What was the beef in during the time of the king of Persia? What happened? What went down? What happened?
The Jews wanted
Let me ask some questions here. What happened? What happened? They took over the Babylonian kingdom, right? Now, when it comes to Israel, what happened? They took over across that region, but what happened after that? Who was Esther? Who was Esther's Mordecai? Who are these people? What happened? Right, the Persian. What happened?
Mordecai asked Esther is niece
It's niece, right?
to
Who is Mordecai?
Mordecai was
He's from tribe of Benjamin, right? But
he
who?
was an Israelite.
He was an Israelite, right?
He had high position.
Right. What happened? What did he do? What did Mordecai do?
He asked Esther to go in and ask the king to. She ended up marrying
The king, right? Exactly, because the king needed why did the king needed a new wife? What happened? What the first wife did?
She embarrassed him.
She embarrassed him, right? And what happened?
And
He got upset. I think he killed her, right? Now he
banished
did.
her. I'm not
Right.
going to speak to her. Banished her.
He banished her, right? And then he needed a new queen,
Yes.
right? So he had tryouts, right? Different women came, and then before you even meet the king, you have to get trained, and it's a whole process of even before you even meet the king. And then so Mordecai, he said his niece, and we're going to get into this deeper in the future because the high holiday is coming. But then what happened after that? The king did what?
He met her
He met her,
and
fell in love with her,
he married
and he married her, and she became what?
queen.
Okay, how could this be fulfillment of Deuteronomy 28? What happened after she married him? What was the whole issue? With there was a certain general there. Let's keep reading. Let's go. Haman.
Mordecai would not bow down to Haman.
Exactly. Now, at the end of the concept, when it said you will go into captivity, in Deuteronomy 28, you will go into captivity and worship other gods, right? At the end of this story, did we actually serve other gods? What happened?
He ended up,
At the end of the story of the book of Esther, what happened?
the king gave Mordecai to
Jurisdiction.
go back and help build the temple.
Thank you. So how can this be the fulfillment of Deuteronomy 28? See that? So if you know the story of what went down, you would know that the Deuteronomy 28 was not fulfilled. It was in the confine of the Bible. Right? So let's go read.
The book of Daniel, the book of Esther, chapter 9. Though it was turned to the contrary, that the Jews had ruled them that hated them. Verse 2. The Jews gathered themselves together in their cities throughout all the province of the king Ahasuerus to lay on such as sought their hurt, and no man could withstand them, for the fear of them fell upon all people. Verse 3. And all the rulers of the province of the lieutenants and the deputies of the officers of the king helped the Jews, because the fear of Mordecai fell upon them.
They did what?
Helped the Jews because the fear of Mordecai fell upon them.
So how could this be the fulfillment of Deuteronomy 28? Okay? Now let's go to what's the next kingdom? The Greeks. Alexander the Greek. Right? Go to my Bible. And again, we went over this before, because the Bible doesn't touch on this in great detail. read this highlighted situation here. This is like, my Bible's like a little dictionary dash slash Bible. All right, so before we go, let me just get this little, just geographically, what we're looking at here. All right, so you got Alexander the Great, the conquest, what he conquered. Okay, we have over here Mesopotamia, okay, which would be considered Turkey today. Greece.
Where are you pointing?
Up here.
That would be Greece. And,
That's the Greece, right?
Yeah.
This is the Black Sea. This is Asia. Yeah, this is Turkey. This would be considered Turkey today. But this is Israel over here. This is Egypt. Okay. So you notice all the kingdoms were around the same, always connected to Israel. You notice that. There's always different areas, but it's always connected. And you have, of course, Babylon, which is Iraq. You have the Persia, which is like near India. Okay, so this is what Alexander, he came from this region. Matter of fact, hold this and go back to the Apocrypha of 1 and 1. No, hold that. Go to the Apocrypha and go to the Maccabees 1 and 1. Macedonia, that's what I meant, which is Greece. This is the Black Sea here. Okay.
First Maccabees,
Yeah, 1 and 1.
chapter 1, verse 1. And it happened, after Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Shittim, and smiting Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece.
So the Persians were coming from this direction. They were trying to increase their power, but the great king, Alexander the Great, stuffed their power and ultimately overcame their kingdom and became great. So this is basically what Alexander the Greek conquered. Keep reading.
Verse 2. And made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth. Verse 3. And went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, and so much that earth was quiet before him. Whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. Verse 4.
Keep reading.
And he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings, who became tributaries unto him. Verse 5. And after these things he fell sick and perceived that he should die.
Okay, so how long did Alexander the Greek live? Well, he know how long? What age did he die? He started conquering, I think, very early, around age 16, 17, after his father, and then I think the age of 30 or 31 he died. I could be wrong, but in his early 30s he died. And after that, what happened? He divided his kingdom to four of his generals, right? Now, during the lifetime of Alexander, did we have a beef with Alexander? Let's read that. Let's go to my Bible in the part where it says Alexander. Shittim is, yes, in this area. This right here. I think, did you got the, I think I have, okay. So let's go to my Bible and read over here. Alexander
the Great, Persia never succeeded in subduing the Greeks, but in heir of Greek culture. Alexander of Macedon eventually brought to an end the Persian Empire. Alexander was not simply a power-made despot, a pupil of the philosopher Aristotle. He was thoroughly convinced that Greek culture was the one force that could unify the world. In 333 BC, he passed from Macedonia into Asia Minor and defeated the Persian army stationed there. Then he moved southward through Syria and Palestine to Egypt, Tyre, and Gaza each offered stubborn resistance, but delays did not discourage Alexander. They simply strengthened his determination to win. There was no need for a campaign against the Jews.
Read that again.
There was no need for a campaign against the Jews.
And why is that? Let's read.
And legend makes Alexander a friend of the Jewish people.
Makes him what?
A friend of the Jewish people.
So that prophecy of Deuteronomy 28 was not fulfilled with Alexander. Right? Keep reading. What else did he allowed the Jews to do?
Jaddua, the high priest, is said to have come out to meet Alexander, telling him of Daniel's prophecy that the
We
Greek
just read that. Read that.
Greek army would be victorious. Daniel chapter 8. Although historians do not take this story seriously,
They have to put that in there. They got to put that in there.
it does illustrate the friendly feelings between the Jews.
It does what?
Illustrate the friendly feelings between the Jews and the Macedonian conqueror.
Read.
Alexander permitted the Jews to observe their laws, granted them exemption from tribute during sabbatical years.
See that? So how is that the fulfillment? So where are we going through Babylon? That didn't work. That didn't was fulfilled because Nebuchadnezzar eventually was friendly with the Jews. Matter of fact, in the scripture, which the scripture says that not to go to Jeremiah, the 19th chapter. I don't want to go back and all over the place. You got the Most High told Israel not to go back to Egypt. Remember that? Stay in Babylon because my servant Nebuchadnezzar is working. I'm working with him. So stay in safety. I think you got that? Let me get it real
Jeremiah
quick.
19.
I think it's the 19th chapter. Let me get it real quick.
I think. I think it was 44, I'm not mistaken.
It's going to be 44?
Egypt.
44?
Yeah, it's
44 and 7? Okay, there you go.
Jeremiah 44, verse 7. Therefore now thus says the Lord, the power of hosts, the power of Israel. Wherefore commit ye this great evil against your souls, to cut off from you man, woman, child, and suckling out of Judah, to leave you none to remain. Verse 8. And that ye provoke me unto wrath with the works of your hands, burning incense unto other gods in the land of Egypt, whether you be gone to dwell, that ye may cut yourselves off, that ye might be a curse and a reproach among all the nations of the earth. Verse 9. Have you forgotten the wickedness of your fathers, and the wickedness of the kings of Judah, and the wickedness of their wives, and your own wickedness, and the wickedness of your wives, which they have committed in the land of Judah, and in the streets of Jerusalem? Verse 10. They are not humble, even unto this day, neither have they feared nor walked in my law, nor in my statutes that I set before you and before your fathers. Verse 11.
Hold that, because that's not the one I want you to get. Hold that. When he told them to stay in, let me get it real quick, hold on. Stay with Nebuchadnezzar, because he's my chosen.
It's 46.
It's 46?
Yeah.
All right, stay there. Read that.
Jeremiah chapter 46, verse 1. The word of the Lord which came to Jeremiah the prophet against Gentiles, against Egypt, against the army of Pharaoh Necho, king of Egypt, which was by the rivers of Euphrates, and Carchemish, which Nebuchadnezzar king smote, in the 4th year. Jehoiakim, the sons of Josiah, king of Judah, order ye the buckler and shield and draw near to battle. Oh, I'm trying to look for
I'm trying to get it. let's see, I think I got it here, hold on, This is with, Nebuchadnezzar, this is with King. Hold that, and then I'll get in a few minutes, but let's go back to, that's it with the, with Alexandria?
Yeah, still was a little bit more.
It was still a little more, alright, let's finish that, and I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna get the, cause I wanna bring this. Alright, so finish with with Alexandria, and I'm gonna get the,
Alexander permitted the Jews to observe their laws, granted them exemptions from tribute during sabbatical years, and when he built Alexandria in Egypt, which is 331 BC, he encouraged Jews to settle there and gave them privileges comparable to those of his Greek subjects.
You see that? Read, I said that? Alright. Now, what went wrong? What happened after Alexander died? The journey took over, right? And what was the general that had a problem with Israel? Go to, jump down to First Maccabees. Jump down to 1 and 10. First Maccabees.
The book of Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 10. And there came out of them a wicked root,
Antiochus, read.
surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king.
That was one of the general. I can't remember those four. We got a
Sandra, Ptolemy, Seleucid, and I can't pronounce the other brother's name. The other guy's name.
oh, okay. All right.
Who had been a hostage at Rome, and reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. Verse 11. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us.
See, you also got to remember, it was when you go into like Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Daniel, it wasn't necessarily the kingdom that overcould or was the superpower that was the problem. It was really us. They wanted to be like them. So we had a choice because the Most High sent prophets and saviors to deal with these kingdoms to allow us to continue following our culture. Okay, during the time of Nebuchadnezzar, he sent Daniel. During the time of the Persian Medes, he sent what's the brother's name? We just mentioned the Mordecai, and the sister became his niece became queen. So we had no excuse. During the time of Greek, Alexander, we just read, he allowed us to follow the commandments. And when the enemies went against us, we were able to prevail over them. What happened at the end of this thing? What happened at the end when they took over Israel and they came over and took over the temple and defiled the temple? What happened after that? Who rose up? The Maccabee family. To the point that we celebrate that victory every year. The Feast of Lights, the Feast of Dedication. So none of the Deuteronomy 28 was fulfilled throughout the Bible. We were able to overcome. Yeah, we have problems. Yeah, we have enemies. We always had enemies. You understand? And, go sister.
Because with all of that, they never removed the Most High from us.
Exactly.
We always remember the Most High, and we always had places.
To worship.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's now, exactly.
Our mind.
Exactly.
Like,
Right. Now, so that's the Greco Empire, that's out the way. So let's deal with the Roman, the last empire. Now to show you a quick geographical area of the Roman Empire. Okay. The Roman Empire, this is Israel over here, this is Egypt, this is Africa. Okay, Rome started here. This is the home base of Rome, which is in Italy. Okay, which looks like a boot. okay? And they took over this area. They had Spain, they had London, they had certain parts of Africa, Egypt, okay? So you notice that the Babylonian Empire started here. The Syrian Empire kind of was in this area. The Greek was more like in this area, and it was more like they seduced this area, but it wasn't. They're fighting each other. One kingdom became bankrupt, so it just basically became nothing. It wasn't really a superpower anymore. It was just basically there were people still in it. Babylon was still around. Iraq is Babylon today. You know, the Persian Medes they're still around. It's just was not destroyed. It's no longer a superpower. So with Rome, were we allowed to worship the Roman Empire was established?
Yeah.
Who did the Roman Empire elected to rule over the Jews? Arad, King Arad. And why is that? Who is King Arad? Or what's the family of King Arad? They were Edomians. They were what? They were converted to Judaism under who converted them? John Hyrcanus. And that's right after. That's after the Maccabees. After we established there was a certain region, we conquered that, and we gave them a choice: either convert or I might have that. Let me see if I have some writings on that. We can do a quick history on that. I hope I have it. Let's see here. So the Roman Empire, who were Edomians, I'll bring that next week. This is not it. I'll bring it next week. No, I don't have that. I'll give you that history. But the Roman Empire allowed the Israelites to continue their tradition. Why did, okay, when we has read that Alexandria felt that the Alexandria tradition was the dominant culture, or the more advanced culture from any other culture that predestined. Why was that? Who knows about Alexandria? As a matter of fact, they did a movie. It was pretty accurate with Willem Farrell, whatever his name is, the actor. Why they were pissed off at Alexandria? His generals, because he allowed the nations to maintain their culture. He wanted to keep culture alive. He didn't want to destroy culture. And he felt that people would be less reluctant to be taken over by this empire if you are allowed to maintain your God, your tradition. Listen, all I need is some soldiers, pay me some money to strengthen my empire, and I'm going to let you live. The opposite of that coin would be I would totally destroy you. So people say, you know what? That's not a bad deal. I could still follow my God, I could still follow my culture. So he felt that philosophy, and not only that, he also elected or put some of the leaders of that particular culture in his cabinet. So his people were upset. It's like, you letting these guys coming in and you giving them position. But Alexander was like, you don't understand. If I can control their leader, I can control the people. Right? So not only he's learning from them, from the leaders, from the people of power within that region, but he's also controlling that region by that one person. So this guy becomes, and he married the Egyptian queen, and they were upset about that. How can you defile your seed with foreigners and all that? You understood his philosophy was different. Build allies instead of enemies, and your empire will grow. So that was his philosophy. Now, when the Roman Empire took over, okay, and really the Roman Empire and the Greek is really one, but it's really Because the Roman Empire, the Greek Empire only was great after Alexander. The Greek Empire basically destroyed itself because of the four general were infighting. So when you divide a kingdom, it just doesn't become as strong as it was, because certain all the different generals had a different idea how to run their particular region versus the other general. So therefore, that brings division, then that brings weakness. It doesn't become as strong. So when the Roman Empire started coming around, they were united. So they swallowed and ate up the Greco-Roman Empire, but it is another version of the Greco-Roman Empire. This is a different thing. So this is the region that the Roman Empire world was ruling. So that's why when you can also tell when somebody used that word world, that means everybody. When you go to Luke, the 2nd chapter, it says, when Caesar Augustus made a decree that the world should be taxed, it was this world he was referring to. He was not talking about the Chinese world that was all up here. He was not talking about the African world that was up here. He was talking about his region. Okay, so you could go into that. All right, where were we?
Maccabees 1 and 10.
Maccabees 1 and 10. Okay, now let's go to Rome. Let's go back to Deuteronomy 28 chapter. So when they come at you, you know exactly how to combat with them. That's why it's very important to know history, to show you this was not fulfilled nowhere in the Bible. We was always overcoming our enemies. It was always that thing. That's why the Jews that stood in Jerusalem had a certain resentment towards the other tribes, because they left that area. We're going to get into that as well. Okay? So let's go to Deuteronomy 28. Let's go into the part when, let's go to 20.
Deuteronomy 28, verse 20. The Lord shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke in all that thou settest thy hand unto for to do. Until
I don't know who was with me now. How we were watching that. The guy, the rabbi, he was reading this, and the curses that he could not explain away, he ignored them. Next, he only went into the scriptures or the curses that he could explain away. Right? Keep reading. This one he is ignored, because that's talking about. Keep reading. It's going to tell you that.
Until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings, thereby thou hast forsaken me.
When would that fulfill? Read.
Verse 21. The Lord shall make thee pestilence cleave unto thee until he have consumed thee from off the land.
When was that in the Bible fulfilled, that Israel were receiving diseases that it consumed? That never happened. Read.
Whether thou goest to possess it. Verse 22. The Lord shall smite thee with consumption, and with a fever, and with an inflammation, and with extreme burning, and with the sword, and with blasting, and with mildew, and they shall pursue thee until thou perish. Verse 23. And thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thee shall be iron.
Jump down to 20. This is all dealing with diseases, which is, we can't trace that in the Bible. So this thing has to still be fulfilled. 28. Go to 28.
Deuteronomy 28, verse 28. The Lord shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart. Verse 29. And thou shalt grow at noonday as the blind gropeth in darkness. And thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee.
So that goes to show you that we went over to that quick, brief history. That was not fulfilled. We were able to overcome. And that to the point that we actually built and created memorial days to remember those days that we overcame our enemies, like the day of Purim, the day of Feast of Lights, or the Feast of Dedication, right? Jump down to 30. Go to 30.
Verse 30. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof.
When did this happen? This only happened in slavery. This only happened to us. Okay, jump down to 32.
Verse 32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people.
Hold on, brother. Babe, this, someone's trying to look for the church. I think they're outside. If you don't mind. Yeah, if you could just, hold on 2 seconds. That's why I was leave the door a little crack. I know it's cold. I could bring the temperature a little higher. It's in 70, maybe 75. Doesn't even feel that way, right? Okay. Okay, all right, there we go. Hey, shalom, brother. You made it? Okay. Welcome. All right. Yeah,
There's plenty more.
there's plenty more.
Might even give the brother.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, just you can give my wife the whole thing. And then, just just take. No, I'll keep the envelope, and you keep. There you go. All right. So brother, shalom, brother, welcome. Okay, we are going over the understanding that the Deuteronomy 28 curses did not happen during the time of the Bible. We went over to quick brief history. That somebody gave you the. Okay, perfect. So this is a quick. Okay, I don't even have one. Maybe passing one. I'm sorry. I do have like the big. Okay. You have an extra Bible, babe? Okay. All right. So let's continue. We are reading Deuteronomy 22 and 32. 28. I'm sorry, Shalaka.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 32.
Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thy eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thy hand. Verse 33. The fruit of thy land and thy labor shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always.
Now, did the Roman Empire fulfill this prophecy? Or began the downfall in the beginning? Right? Yes. Yeah. So, can someone say, well, that fulfillment was fulfilled in the in 70 AD, or the beginning started? Yes, that is correct. That is correct. But let's continue, because there's a key thing. We're going to also read what happened in 70 AD in a greater detail. Keep reading.
Verse 34. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 34. So that thou shalt be mad for the sight of thy eyes which thou shalt see. Verse 35. The Lord shall smite thee in the knees, and in the legs with a sore botch that cannot be healed.
Jump down to 36.
Verse 36. The Lord shall bring thee and thy king which thou shall set over thee unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, and thou shalt serve other gods, wood and stone.
Read.
Verse 37. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whether the Lord shall lead thee. Verse 38. Thou shalt carry much seed out into the field, and shall gather but little in, for the locust shall consume it.
Okay. So, all this began after the downfall of Jerusalem. Go to Luke, the 21st chapter. All the curses began after 70 AD. That's when it starts. That's when it started. It didn't end there, or it started to end there. It was not, all the curses were fulfilled in 70 AD, that 1 year. You understand what I'm saying? But it was the beginning of those curses. Right? Read.
Luke 21, verse 20. And when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is near. Verse 21. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out. And let not them that are in the countries there enter thereinto. Verse 22. For this be the days of vengeance.
This be the days of what?
For this be the days of vengeance.
Why?
That all things which are written may be fulfilled.
So all things that are written may be fulfilled. Read.
Verse 23. For woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. Verse 24. And they shall fall by the sword, they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive unto all nations.
So why is it important to know and to establish that the curses started in 70 AD? Not in the Bible. Okay, what are the so-called Jews trying to avoid? That we're still going through the curses. So therefore, and what is another thing they're trying to avoid? What's the scriptures? Go back to Deuteronomy 28. Deuteronomy 28 and 45 and 46.
Deuteronomy 28, verse 45. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee till thou be destroyed, because
Until thou be destroyed, read.
because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of Ahia thy power, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. Verse 46. And they shall be upon thee for a sign.
There should be a what?
Upon thee for a sign.
A what?
And for a wonder.
Read.
And upon thy seed forever.
Forever. So, this is what they're trying to avoid. So it's important to you to establish that the curses began in 70 AD. Why? Because then it's from 70 AD after Christ, after Babylon, after the Persian and the Medes, after the Greeks and the Romans, is when the curses started. Sister, you had a question? If the curses are conditional? Yes. Right. Now that's another question. That's another thing they will say. Well, it's conditional. See, the Jews, we're following the Torah. That's why we don't have those curses. So it's saying, it's not that if it would, it doesn't say this is what is going to happen. This is what would happen if you don't do A, B, and C. How can you combat that? It's in the scripture. Go to Deuteronomy, the 30th chapter.
Deuteronomy 30.
30 and 1.
Deuteronomy 30 and 1. And it shall come to pass.
And it shall come to pass.
All these things are come upon thee.
All these things come upon thee.
The blessing and the curse.
The blessings and the curses. Read.
Which I have set before thee.
That set before thee.
And thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations.
You will call them to mind when you're all in the nation. So the only way that could be fulfilled is you will call them to mind. First of all, this proves that this would happen. So we are going to go into captivity into all nations. We are going to go into Egypt again with ships. We are going to be receive all the curses of Egypt and the plagues and the diseases. We are going to become mad, and we are going to be, our children are going to be driven to slavery, and we're going to see them and have no power in our hand. All these things are going to come true. After these things come true, we're going to call them to mind. Read.
Verse 2, whether the Lord thy power hath driven thee.
So wherever you're at, geographically, you're going to start remembering this. The only way this could happen is what? Prophecy. How can you come to remember? You must do what? You must be in what state of mind? You must be self-aware that you're a Hebrew. So this nonsense that the Israelites are done away with and we don't know who they are, that goes against the prophecy. The Israelites are going to come and remember the blessings and the curses that they received. And then you also go back and say, well, did this prophecy really came true? That the Israelites came, remember, and did what? Keep reading.
Verse 2, and shall return unto the Lord thy power, and shall obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, and thy children with all thy heart and with all thy soul. Verse 3, then the Lord thy power will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations, whether the Lord the power hath scattered thee.
So if they're the so-called Jews, right, is it every CEO mogul, Fortune 500 corporation is a so-called Jew, and they're not what they would call a practicing Jew. My boss is Jewish. He eats pork. I'm not a Jew, I'm not a religious Jew. I'm a capitalist Jew. That's what I'm saying. And he's blessed. He has a corporation. He has a company. Well, he's not going to the curses. It is conditional, which is right. It is conditional. Yes, sister, you have a question?
So, okay. So, is this what the Most High was telling Abraham in Exodus 15? When he said, your seed is going to be a stranger in a land?
What you told Abraham?
Yes.
Yeah, it's twofold, because Abraham went into a foreign land, but remember, and I think you touched upon on last week when in the book of Jubilee, that land that he was a stranger was really his. So it was promised to his grandfather, grandfather Shem. So he would be a stranger in his own land, really, or the land that was promised to his forefather. That Ham took over. That's Israel. They came and stole it. But it's also the fulfillment also about his children, of us. Do you understand? Because he told, get out. He was in. What was Abraham? He was in what? Saudi Arabia? When Abraham got called. The Chaldeans. What is that considered geographically today? What do you mean, like Iraq?
Yeah.
You're in the Euphrates area? Like, right.
Because all that land was given to Shem.
Right, that area.
That land to Shem and...
Right, exactly. Like Egypt belongs to us.
Yes, and this is a question I'm asking.
Right.
I'm asking this question because of what we just went through.
Right.
When the Most High said to Abraham, know ye of surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve 400 years.
Oh, that's Egypt. Right. That's Egypt.
But isn't Egypt ours?
Egypt is ours, but it's not. You can't look at the country line that is modern time or even ancient time, because that's nations did that. In other words, the heritage that the Most High gave Ham, Shem, and Japheth, the nations didn't honor that. So they created their own country. You understand? So the Egypt today is not like Egypt. Really, the land of Goshen really belongs to us. But Lower Egypt belongs to Mizraim. But now they made those two different land territories one country. So you can't really go by really the the map division of countries because man did that. The Most High didn't do that. He gave certain portions. You understand? So, you kind of get what I'm saying?
So when they said Upper Egypt, when they said Lower Egypt, that was ours and.
No, Upper Egypt is ours.
Upper
Goshen.
Egypt is lower, actually.
No, the upper Goshen, the upper part, when it's more fertile, like more, that's us. That's more us. Going towards Israel.
I'm almost certain the upper is actually, I know it's a little reversed, the upper is really considered Lower Egypt.
I gotta look into that, but I'm saying geographically.
That's, let's
Right.
just say northern part.
Right,
The northern part was ours.
right.
And the
It
southern-
was always given to us by,
Because he said here from the river of Egypt unto the great river of the river Euphrates,
right,
the Kenite and all those lands going down.
Right.
It says Kenite, it was ours.
right, but remember, the Egyptian, we didn't go into Goshen originally, we went into Egypt, and, because it was a famine, and then after Joseph, got rulership into that area, then we went to Goshen, but then after that, the Egyptians said, come and let's deal with them, and then we went into captivity. So so it's a situation that the nations may, even the original inhabitants or the original land has belonged to Ham and Japheth is not really divided modernly, and even in biblical time, because they just took on, they didn't really honor those landmass that belong to. You understand what I'm saying? So you have to look at it as well. Yeah, it's like when you look at Mexico and America, is one landmass, but it's borders. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So we have borders. Like when there was a divided, I think it was Lot and Abraham. They were, and then everybody said, you take this portion, and I take that portion. And the people of Lot is the Jordanians and the Palestinians, which is right next to Israel. There's that's when you go to the West Bank and all that. So but in the kingdom of heaven, all that's going to get resolved. So we, and everything was given for our pleasure, even the nations, was given to serve Israel. This is the way it is. All right, let's keep reading. Where were we?
What was that? Deuteronomy 30?
Yeah.
And verse 4. If any of thy be driven out unto the outmost parts of the heaven, from thence will the Lord the power give thee, from thence will he fetch thee. Verse 5. And the Lord thy power will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed, and thou shalt possess it, and he will do thee good and multiply thee above thy fathers.
So when a Jew may say, well, see, we got the land of Israel, that was fulfilled in 1948. Where can you go within the scriptures to say, well, hold on, buddy, that's not the fulfillment. What's supposed to happen after we go back into the Israelite go back to the land of Israel?
All people are going to go and there'll be no more war.
Peace on earth. There's no more peace. We're about to go into more war. Since there's been more war and more friction, and this is the crazy thing. Before 1948, there were Amaleks and Ashkenazi Jews and also Sephardic Jews from the land of Israel sharing it with Palestinians and Jordanians because it was under the rule of Europe. So they were living, they used to even take care of each other's grandkids. Babysit each other's kids. They were living side by side. So this notion that they cannot live together is a lie, because they have done it before for hundreds of years. Although they were not the people, but they were the remnant of the Khazarians and also the Ashkenazi. And also, I also got to do a correction. I did it in the radio show, but I got to do it again to make sure there's no misunderstanding. For years, I thought that, and we was taught this in the old school, that The Ethiopian Jews were the Sephardic Jews, or they were, I'm sorry, not the Assyrian converts. That's incorrect. The Sephardic Jews, or the more Middle Eastern looking Jews, are the descendants of the converts that converted in exactly. Remember when the Samaritans took the man from Babylon and brought him into the land of Assyria and taught them the land of the culture of the land, Israel? The Sephardic Jews today are the descendants of those people. The Ethiopian Jews are actually our people. In Ethiopia, yeah. Those are actually our people. Okay? That's why in the last days is that those also in Ethiopia, I will call my people out of Ethiopia know that, because we in that area. Absolutely.
You say, you know what tribe Ethiopia is?
Well, they will probably most likely will have to be, because remember, it's estimated over 2 million Jews would fly into Africa after 70 AD. So, and into Egypt. Ethiopia is right in the bottom of Egypt. Ethiopia is right bottom of Egypt. And then you go right next to that, you got the Zimbabwe, which you got the Lemba tribe. Okay, we are all in that region. There are more Israelites in Africa than Africans. See, you gotta remember, what was the curse? Ham did not, the children of Ham, it's remember when the Most High blessed the children of Shem and Japheth to multiply, but he didn't bless the children of Ham. Okay, so, right, but there will be a small people. You know, say again? Curse became. Right, but what I'm saying, the curse is that there would not be abundance of them. You understand what I'm saying? And also because they also took part in selling the children of Israel. That's why I said you serve took my children and sold them into the Grecians. Yeah. So they're gonna also be servants of servants.
So the curse would be
that curse has not been fulfilled yet to the full extent. Yes, it has to some degree, because you got the apartheid in Africa, that is, legal slavery. I think that's no longer, but it was for years. That you got the British controlling that region, and many of the Africans were actually legal slaves until like the 80s or something. So did they have that? Serving the servants, who's Esau? What was the curse of Esau? The elder would serve the younger. So he's a servant of Israel. So Ham, that prophecy was fulfilled due to the apartheid or whatever in Africa, when they had legal slavery. The British, who are the sons and daughters of Esau, will have the Canaanites under the captivity or under servitude. They will serve them. So that prophecy was fulfilled. They're just trying to link that with us, with slavery. With us, that's incorrect. You understand, sister? So a lot of that was fulfilled, but you notice when you go to Amos. Go to Amos. Amos 3, and I had this last week. I was looking for last week like crazy, and it was right from my face. So let me make sure. I think it's Amos 3. Like, what do you have to do with me?
That was Joel.
Joel? Is Joel 3? Yeah. Joel 3. Um, 3 and 4.
Joel, the book of Joel, chapter 3, verse 4. Ye, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coasts of Palestine?
These are the Palestinians, who are the Jordanians, the Palestinians today. They also had, it was several nations that got together. The white men, the so-called Jews, Amalek, they supplied the ships. Then they hire merchant sailors from Palestine in that area to kind of, when you go into the movies and you see white people in the slave ships and all that and whipping, that was not really us. That was not even white people. They were hiring Middle Eastern folks to do that. There's a picture that I have that you see an Arab in the boat and you see the Africans, and you understand? So that's really still, not to say that there probably was not some Edomites within the ship that probably went, but they hired, because Esau, he always hires people to do the dirty work or the hard work. He's not going to go stay there in the ship, because that's something that's not a position of a high position. You know, dealing with slaves. So they used to hire other people. Go ahead, sister. Yes. Right. Japhet is the Japanese, Chinese, the people from the Mongolians in that area. We thought for years that the Japhet was the Japanese and the Moab and Ammon was the Japanese. That's incorrect. Because Moab and Ammon always stood in the Middle East. There's no historical history that Moab and Ammon ever went into China. Mm-hmm. Japhet went into China. And Japhet at one point was in Europe. Mm-hmm. And the Esau ran Japhet out of Europe. Mm-hmm. That's why when you go into certain parts of Russia, you have certain Russians looking like they got Chinese little eyes. They got little, because they mix with Japhet. You understand what I'm saying? Like in Attila the Hun was actually an Edomite. They ran out. But they don't say that. He ran out the Chinese out of that region. Yeah, brother. What you mean? The first white person? Well, you got to remember, you also had. Yeah, I guess you could say that, because the word Esau means wasted away is he. So lack of melanin. He was born with lack of melanin. And then red also because he was born, heavy, but also that name was stuck with him after he sold his birthright. So every time you name our kids, we name them after an event that happened, a physical attribute, the child might be. Yeah, because when Esau was the only child that ever was described, because he came out looking like everybody else. I mean, he came out looking different than everybody else. He was different. So that it was so important. You understand what I'm saying? He was so different that it was described in the Bible. And also Esau was able to, what he started intermingling with the Canaanite women that had leprosy. That there was the Horites that started so he maintained that color because he started dealing with only people dealing with leprosy. You understand what I'm saying? So that leprosy is genetics, and so if you continue only marrying people with lack of melanin, eventually your kids are gonna come out like. Now if that factor was that also when you go into, because it's a good question, that Esau came out with woolly hair or he came out with straight hair. You understand what I'm saying? But you go also, a lot of Africans, believe it or not, they have straight hairs. The woolly hair really is us. In particular, the tribe of Judah, Benjamin, Levi. You understand? All right, let's keep reading.
The book of Joel, chapter...
This is the funny thing with that. People will say their argument, and will say, well, how would this be possible? It's okay. So then, where did the white people came from then? Apparently, it came from somewhere. It's never been proven that the dark gene is dominant, so you cannot have gotten white from dark, but you can only get dark from white. So even science would logically say that white people came from black people, because you could. It's like I don't know if you've seen the picture with Jay-Z's and Beyonce's daughter. She had, what, there's some rumors going on that I don't know about? But she came out with dead hair. You know, she came out with like, she was like Mexican or something. But we have the ability to do that. Like if you look at Sinbad, the comedian, his parents is dark as you, both of them, but he came out like
Mulatto.
Mulatto.
Yeah, we have.
Right.
mulatto kids. You see
That happens all the time.
Right.
Right. So that happens. All right. Let's keep reading.
The book of Joel, chapter 3, verse 4. Me, and what have you to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coast of Palestine? When will me a recompense? And if you recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return the recompense upon your own head. Verse 5. Because you have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly, pleasant things. Verse 6. The children of Judah also, and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians.
Now, when you said the children of Jerusalem, that usually replying to the tribe of Judah, because at that time Israel was already, the 10 tribes was already scattered. So the tribe of Judah and the tribe of Jerusalem is those tribes, which is the majority of them with Benjamin and Levi, stood with Judah. Read.
That ye might remove them far from their border. Verse 7. Behold, I will raise them out of the place whither ye have sold them,
It's America. Read.
and will return your recompense upon your own head.
That really show you the Atlantis slave trade. I'm going to get a map. I had a map. You guys have a map, right? Okay. Now let's go into this real quick. And I think this map doesn't really do it justice, because I've seen other maps that there's another one that deals with the Native Americans going into England. There's a lot of Native Americans into England and also Spain, indigenous people in Spain. So I got to get that map too. So let's deal with it real quick. We have, and I don't know if I have this map in my folder here. Let me just double check real quick. All right, let me drag it into. Give me 1 minute. I had it here. Oh, now the folder. Okay, there we go. Let me just drag this for the folks to see. Okay. Can you guys see that? All right. This is called the Atlantic slave trade, but I put the Israelite slave trade. But you could get this through, like these so-called African American culture books and things of that nature. All right. So you got. Notice it on top. It goes into Cairo, Egypt. You know that? You see that? So slaves went to Cairo, Egypt too. So who's in Egypt and in that area? The Jordanians, okay, the Egyptians, the coast of Tyre, and so the Africans also had a hand and also enslaving us. You also go into over there in Spain. Tunis, could you read down, because my eyes are not too, up here, all the different coasts.
Barber, Argolis, Tunis, Tripoli, Arab, Assad. I'm not mistaken, that's the O or D.
Yeah, I can't make that out either, but, but these are all different coasts, and also it goes into now, notice there's a little, and the other side of Africa, you notice there's a little light part, when it says, by Madagascar, we were there too. We there too, in that area. Ethiopia, you notice we're in that area over here, when you see Ethiopia, that's under Egypt. All right, so let's go and read. We went to also in Brazil, New York, New Hampshire, Cuba, Mexico City. So you notice certain indigenous people, they have Negroid features because a lot of them are mixed. Some of the 10 tribes are mixed with the 2 tribes. So some like Brazil is half Asher and half Judah. You get the dark-skinned Brazilians, they look like you. They speak in Brazilian, to Brazil. They were the one that invented capoeira, right? And then you have the more Indian-looking Brazilians, those of the tribe of Asher. You understand? So Brazil is not really a tribe. You understand what I'm saying? Certain countries are mixed with different tribes. All right, so let's read from Babylon to Timbuktu real quick. 854. We read this before, but I want to also continue reading because he brought out some other heavy points within. You can start from the highlights.
This is the book from Babylon to Timbuktu, page 84. In the year 65 BC, the Roman army under General Pompey, captured Jerusalem. In 70 AD, General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to the Jewish state with great slaughter. During the period of the military governance of Palestine, many outrages and atrocities was committed against the residue of the people. During the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa, fleeing from Roman persecution and slavery.
Yeah, what happened to those Jews, right? Read.
The slave markets were full of black Jewish slaves.
Read.
And the Lord, this is Deuteronomy 28, verse 64, excuse me. The Lord shall scatter thee among all the people, from the one end of the earth, even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. This prophecy and all the residue of the prophecies contained in Deuteronomy 28:15-68 befell the black Jews after they disobeyed the laws of the Most High. Many nations transported the Jews into slavery, and the sons of Israel transmigrated to every continent. The Jewish philosopher Pharaoh, about 40 BC to 40 AD, who lived in Alexandria, Egypt, said that 1 million Jews resided in Libya and Egypt, from the Catabamus to the borders of Ethiopia.
Where's Libya? Listen, have you ever seen a picture of Gaddafi when he was young? That brother looks like an Ephraimite. Yeah, but when he was younger, like that guy looks like an Israelite. One of the 10 tribes. He could be Judah too. Who knows? Because Judah, but that Libya is right on top of Africa, right? Keep reading.
Professor A.H. Garvey says Pharaoh leaves us doubtful about the boundaries of Ethiopia he meant. I think that Pharaoh meant the western and southern boundaries of Ethiopia, because the prophet Zephaniah mentioned from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, the daughters of Mount Disperse. There was a period over 600 years between Zephaniah and Pharaoh, and considering the new waves of immigrants coming into Africa.
So that's the reason why a lot of the Ethiopian Jews, they focus on a lot of scriptures dealing with Ethiopia. Now, go ahead, brother.
And
in Israel, the oldest Jews are Israel.
Yeah, right,
And I mean, I saw a documentary on Channel 7 once.
Right.
They were actually showing, you know, the oldest people in
right,
Israel were dark-skinned people.
right, exactly.
They were from Ethiopia.
Right, exactly. And they look like, they look Dominican a little bit. Like Dominican, Haitian,
Yeah.
they look like, you know, yeah, I could yeah, they look like that, like Haitian, a lot of them little Jamaican, or like, not Jamaican, like those islands.
Yeah.
Yeah, they look like, yeah, very, very mixed. Very.
They had 600 years to penetrate toward all the borders of Ethiopia. Each scholar wrote that Hebrewism was detectable by the inscriptions from the Egyptian border westward across North Africa to Mauritania. A.H. Godby says Jerome, 340 to 420 AD, one of the four doctors of the church, wrote that the Jews were spread from the western extremity of Mauritania to India. Now, ancient Mauritania included part of the territory of the Atlantic Ocean, Morocco, and part of the modern Algeria. It is certain that the Jews had migrated all across North Africa by the 2nd century. Some scholars fix the date earlier than this. The Greek historian and the geographer Strabo, 63 BC, 24 AD, said concerning the Jews of Saran, Libya, now these Jews already have gotten into all the cities, and it is hard to find a place in inhabitable earth that has not admitted this tribe of men and is not possessed by it. And it has come to pass that Egypt and Saran, having the same governors, had a great many other nations imitate their way of living, maintain great bodies of these Jews.
Read that again.
And great many other nations imitate their way of living.
Imitate the way of living. So sometimes you have a lot of cases that people convert because they emulate us, and but then later on, because what is the Jewish litmus test in regard to for them to accept you as Jew? What did they say? That and what else? There's something else. If you could show that your family has been following that tradition for like I think 10 generations, the 10th century, you can say okay, so that's proves, that's significant evidence, and so what they have done, they could trace their lineage back 1,000 years, but in Poland, in Germany, Georgia, they were following Jewish culture. But that goes back into the Khazarian Empire, because the Khazarian Empire converted 6th century AD. So that's 600 years after Christ. So that's 1,400 years, 1,400 years. So if you could trace that 100 years or 200 years, that's not impressive, because and especially in Poland, you understand what I'm saying, in that area. So let's keep reading.
Maintain great bodies of the Jews in a peculiar manner, privileged status, and grow up to a greater prosperity with them, and make us the same laws with the nations also. After the fall of Carthaginian metropolis in North Africa, Roman power became dominant in the barbarian states. Under Roman suzerainty and power.
And also I want to bring something out, because this Wednesday we had a radio show with Henry Mankind. I think Elder Ricard touched on it a little bit, dealing with this guy was really not being truthful with us, because he knew and he knows who we are. He knows who the real Jews are. And I'm going to bring something real quick, if I can find it here. Here we go. This is under his website, henrymancow.com, and the article, Lucifer, God of Judaism. reply to Jewish scholar. These are two Jewish scholars, but I want you to read this. This is by Will Newman. This is in his website, henrymancow.com. You can get it. So how is it that he didn't know about the name of the Most High? Remember, because we were trying to go into, and before we went into the actual, hold on, let me show it, make sure people can see me. Let me put this over here. All right. There's that. Okay. Before we went into the show, we was trying to kind of, before we do a show, you got the guests, and you need to kind of go over the questions. But he could prepare, and you know what he's answering, so kind of like, this is the subject we're going to be focusing. Are you comfortable with this? You want what you want to focus on? Okay, so we could prepare, so we could get a line question. Certain guests are more liberal than others. Some are more anal about it. I need to know whatever. So okay, so we went with this guy at least 2 or 3 times with questions, because he didn't want to deal with certain things. He didn't want to deal with the name of the Most High. He didn't want to deal with the authenticity of the Jews. Who are they today? That's not his expertise. So he was like really dismissive. So we stumbled after the show. A brother said, "Hey, brother, you have to check this out." So I want you to read real quick. Let's see here. Not the Talmud at that part. Oh, we go. Yeah. Salvation through the Jews. I want you to read this part real quick. You can get this on the henrymancow.com. Macow, M-A-K-O-W.
Salvation through the Jews. You say, do not the scriptures also teach to love and respect the Jewish people? Yes, we are to love the children of Israel, which I do with all my heart and strength. However, neither you nor I are among the biblical children of Israel.
This is Rabbi Will Newman debating with another rabbi. Read.
The Ashkenazi Jews are Russians, descending from the Khazar Empire. Not to mention, according to prophecy, the return of the Jews to their land will come at the time of Christ's return, and he will usher in world peace. And he shall judge among the nations and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks.
What scripture is that?
Isaiah 2.
Hey, come on. There you go. There you go. Read.
Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more.
Read.
Christ is not back yet, and the true Israelites are still scattered throughout the 4 corners of the earth. There are millions of dead Arabs to prove that the real Jews have not returned to Israel yet.
Read.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 tells us that for their disobedience to the Most High, curses will be upon the Israelites for a sign and for a wonder, and upon their seed forever. Deuteronomy 28:46.
Let me show you these people that know. Everybody knows except us. We're the one holding it back. Read.
By these curses we know who Israel is.
Read that again.
By these curses we know who Israel is.
That's what you show. They look at the curses too, to identify who Israel. This is what this Rabbi Will Newman said. Read.
Do the Jew-like people fit these curses? And thou even thyself shalt discontinue from thy heritage that I gave thee, and will cause thee to serve thy enemies in the land which thou knowest not.
What scripture is that? There you go.
For ye have kindled a fire in my anger, which shall burn forever. Jeremiah 17:4. Is Israel a servant? Is he a homeborn slave? Jeremiah 2:14. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, that ye might remove them from their border. Joel 3:6.
We've been saying this since what? How long have we been saying this? Forever. Read.
It is written that the biblical Israelites would forget their identity, be sold into slavery with ships, and to be impoverished
You think this
forever.
guy Mac doesn't know who we are? This is that's his website. Henry Madcow. Let me
Yeah, gotta get that.
Henry Madcow, HENRY Madcow, MAKOW.com. Henry Madcow. Okay.
You might even go back to
You just call me. I'll send you the link.
Okay.
Don't worry about that. I got you. All right. Let's continue. And let's see who are the Jews. Let me see what this Rabbi Will Newman. Let's go down to over here.
It is written that the biblical Israelites would forget their identity, be sold into slavery with ships, and to be impoverished forever. The African Americans and other West African families are the historical tribe of Judah. The Ashkenazi Jews were the principal financiers of the slave trade. I hope to publish another article about this with mountains of proof.
I'm trying to get this guy down. I'm trying to find this guy. The Rabbi Will
Newman.
Newman.
That's his name?
This is his name. Keep reading. What's more on that? Where were you?
Christ told us.
Yeah, keep reading.
Christ told us about the Jewish people that were to come. I know thy works and tribulations and poverty of the true
So we're the
Israelites,
crazy ones. We're the next jobs.
but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Revelation 2:9. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. Revelation 3:9.
I mean, it's so funny because it's like, you know, that's why I truly believe that everything happens for a reason. When you are dealing with, and it's funny because, you know, these type of information has been around forever, but it's just one of these things that is, history is told by the champions, or sometimes people look at the messengers versus of the message. So now this rabbi is saying the same thing we've been saying forever. Now the world is going to respect that. You understand what I'm saying? So, and brother, yeah, he put it up. It's a lot. Let me also send the link. And it was so funny because this guy Henry Mecca, he was very, I think he's extremely scared. And because, like, for instance, we wanted to, and that's the link right there, folks, if you guys want to take that. Because one thing, like the question that we wanted to ask them is the satanic, something about devil worshipping Jew or Zionist, you know, what is their agenda, something like that. He changed this, he removed satanic, we couldn't use that word, or anything with devil worshipping. I think he's very cordial to who he speaks to, and I think he's and one thing that when we said, do you think you know, they're gonna succeed? He said, yeah, he's extremely afraid. So I think, you know, he's I don't think where he say he lives, I think he's somewhere else. I think, you know, a lot of Edomites, they know and they're preparing. And you notice when we said, yeah, you guys are leaving, or you guys are planning to live off the grid, he said, that's a good idea.
He did say that the top Illuminists like study the Kabbalah.
Right.
The Kabbalah is whatever.
Right, the Kabbalah, right. You understand? He wanted to avoid that question. So there was a lot of questions. We had to go back and forth because he wanted to, you know. All right, let's go to Acts, the second chapter, and we're going to end it after this. We just want to go also geographically to kind of give you a heads up where. Let me just put this back over here. The Israelites in second. Now let's go to. I want to bring something else up. Let's go to Second Ezra, I think the 13th chapter, when it talks about the 10 tribes. Or the 16th chapter? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's
You know what's that, right?
Yeah.
All right. I was not able to get a large picture of the river Euphrates, but you guys should have it. I hope. I think it's the second to last page. Alright, let me, or a larger picture of it rather. So let's read Second Ezra real quick to kind of give you a geographical location. I'm sorry for the people that could not watching. I want to get a bigger one, but I didn't have time. Let me try to. You guys should have this as well. Okay. Where's my pen? Okay. This is Israel. This is the river of Euphrates here. This is Africa. This is the Black Sea. This is the Mediterranean Sea. This is Iraq. To kind of give you an idea, what is this black line here is the river of Euphrates. Will connect also to different areas like you see here. It also connects to the Mediterranean Sea as well, to some degree. The Euphrates River, there was an article I wanted to read that Brother Joshua had, that this river has been, depending what time period you will go to, this river will be drying up. So this is probably more related to ancient versus the modern. So if you go there now, this river has been drying up for years. So let's go to the book of, let's read Second Ezra, the 16th verse, 13th verse, and 39. Let's start at 39.
Chapter 13, Second Ezra 13 and 39. Okay. This is Second Ezra 13, verse 39. And whereas thou sawest that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto him. Verse 40. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king.
Okay, Hosea the king. Now, this is Jerusalem. Judah stood towards the bottom, the part of Israel that's closer to Egypt, and the 10 tribes, the Ephraimites, Simeonites, Gadites, Issacharites, and all the other rights, were on the upper coast of Israel, next to the Assyrian Empire, who ultimately took over that region. Right, here's the Assyrian Empire. Right, read.
So Manasseh, the king of Assyria, led away captive, and he carried them over the waters and came
over the Euphrates River, right, and took them really to Iraq, around this area, which is the ancient Babylon. Read.
And so came they into another land. Verse 41. But they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt.
Read.
Verse 42. that they might there keep their statutes which they never kept in their own land.
So Israel was in this area, right? We all know the story that the king of Syria, who at that time was controlling